Hi everyone, let's play some more Dwarf Fortress. I am Sir Tristan, and in this episode we are going to talk about world generation. First things first, am I recording? Yes. Let's get the music going. Very nice. Let's launch the game. Game's already launched. And here we are. Now, I did install a program that, as you can see, if you check the lower left corner, as I press keys, those keys will appear on screen. Up to 10. I actually have the fade time set a little quickly. Let me edit that here. The name of this program, by the way, is KeyCast OW. It's free. Works extremely well. Let's set the fade time to... let's try that. Let's see. Hello. That's pretty good. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Oh, G. Anyway, that way you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Since Dwarf Fortress is mostly keyboard based, you're going to need to see when I perform my actions. And so this will let me do that. I think I might get rid of the space thing. We'll see. The only keys that really matter, I think, are going to be my main keys, but we'll see. Now I have my music running. In the last episode, towards the end, I was talking about music. Just to clear up a bit of confusion, there is no sound in Dwarf Fortress other than the music. I was making a mistake. I had forgotten that there is no sound in Dwarf Fortress by default other than the music. So I disabled it here, and as you saw at the very beginning, I set some chiptunes to play on YouTube, which should go for several hours and give me a lot of interesting sound and music. So we're in the world now, or we're not in the world, but we're in the game now. And the first thing we have to do is create a new world. Now, if you don't know about Dwarf Fortress, everything in Dwarf Fortress, not everything, but almost everything, the world that you play, the characters, the enemies, like what their names are, the types of enemies, that's procedurally generated when you create a world. Now, some things will be the same, like there are dwarves, they live in mountains. There are humans, there are elves, they love trees. Those things are set. But things like where lakes are, where oceans are, mountains, you know, what kingdoms live where, the name of those kingdoms, which roads, you know, go where, the histories of cities, where battles are fought, all that is procedurally generated when you create a new world. So let's go ahead and do that now. Press enter to create a world. It's going to load up some files. It's going to load our tile set, and then we have this window. Welcome to the alpha of Dwarf Fortress. Now, Dwarf Fortress is in alpha in that it's not feature complete. New features are always being added. I don't think it will ever leave alpha as long as they are working on it, because they are always adding new features. So it will always stay alpha, but it's pretty stable. It's a pretty stable game, so don't expect too many crashes or bugs. So anyway, gonna go ahead and hit escape to continue, and here's where we pick our world size, our history, number of civilizations, etc. Let's do a medium-sized world. By the way, the larger you do, the longer it takes. The longer your history, the longer generating a world is going to take. Music actually does sound a little loud, even though I have it down extremely low. Let's turn it down even further. There we go. That might be too low. Anyway, I'll fix it. So world size is the size of your world. History is how long it will generate a world. As you can see here, this is the length of pre-generated history. Current year is 250. If I go to the right, 550 or 1050. I think I'll leave it on medium. The longer you go, the more people are created, the more events happen. So you have a richer world, but it takes extremely long to generate that world. So we'll leave it on medium. Number of civilizations, how many distinct races and cultures there are, let's set that to high. Number of sites, leave that to medium. Number of beasts, I like beasts. I like the mega beasts. I like them all. The forgotten beasts, I think they're called. Yeah, they're called forgotten beasts. So they're going to be high. I want them to show up. Natural savagery, we'll leave that on medium. Mineral occurrence, increasing mineral occurrence makes more Embark sites have more minerals. We'll set it to frequent, and as you can see at the bottom we have the keys. We can select with either the arrow keys or the number keys on the number pad. escape to stop this, or Y to go. Why it's Y, I'm not sure, but as you see in the lower left, I'm going to press Y, and we're off. On the left, it'll tell us what we're doing. So right now we're forming lakes and minerals, and on the right, it will show you that happening. This is not the entire world, this is zoomed in. As you can see, it's jumping from place to place as it builds the world. Now it's just zoomed back, and it's going through, it's generating our history. We have 4,000 historic figures, 1,000 have died, and 20,000 total events or interactions between those figures are occurring. We've zoomed out now. This is our entire world. Looks like we have some mountains here. A big, large forest. Wait, this isn't the entire world, is it? No. This is the Elven Forest Retreat of Calanthicifino. So yes, as you can see on this map, it's generating locations. These are locations here, generating cities. There's another city right here. This is a Dwarven city, I believe. It's expanding, or a Dwarven civilization is expanding here. I think these are elves. I think the little treasure chest, or the little chest here, this little thing, is goblins, perhaps? Anyway, I'm not sure. So as you can see, right, the first 20 or 30 years went extremely quickly. But now the following years are taking a while, because the more figures we add, the more events, the more interactions they have. See, we've jumped all the way up to 80,000 events. So this is still going to take a while. So while we're doing that, let's continue to talk about, I think we have about 150 years to go, I think. So let's talk about the world itself. So in general, you have dwarves and humans. They get along with each other. You have elves. They also get along. Oh yeah, it just zoomed to a new area. So it looks like this is the whole world is not being shown here. We have some roads, like a road network. All these little things. I think they're like, it looks like silk cloth or something from here, but I think those are special events. Dwarven kingdoms or dwarven cultures here, here, here in the mountains. Anyway, this game does follow your semi-standard tropes about fantasy environments, in that humans, dwarves, elves, they all get along. They fight against goblins, they fight against other things that I don't want to mention yet because it spoils some of the fun of the game, figuring those things out for yourself. Obviously, when I come across them, alright, I won't be able to hide them, but I want to avoid talking about them, if I can. So you have those standard tropes there. Your humans live outdoor in cities, the elves live in trees or in forests, dwarves like to live underground, and they often do. So we got about 100 years left, and after we do this, we're going to pick an Embark site, and we're going to pick a culture or a nation of dwarves to send our 7 out, and you always have to have 7. I think you can change how many you start with, but it requires like editing an INI file or something. But soon we'll decide what our dwarves, where our dwarves are going to go, number 1, what they will take with them, like items, or what animals they'll take with them, dogs, cats, and what skills the dwarves will have. So that's all going to happen. We've doubled the amount of events in about 60 years, so we have 100 left to go. Now I did make the number of civilizations high, and so the historic figure number is going to be high as well, as are the dead as they fight and as wars erupt and things like that. But all this was generated procedurally. We're kind of zoomed in here so you can kind of see there's like a lake or some kind of inland sea here. There may be some passages here and there to get through that are not just showing up here. I can't click on these here. Once this is done generating, I can click on these sections. You can see what the seas are named. All these names are generated randomly. Looks like right here we are looking at the human hamlet of Atimkatslet, or the Curious Fields is what they have called it. You'll always see like a dwarfy name, like a dwarf name, and then what that translates to in English. So Atimkatslet could mean the Curious Fields. And it's a human hamlet, so I think that these are dwarf sites. These kind of statue, these stone-looking creatures are actually dwarven cities. So maybe these cloth-looking things are where the humans are. So We perhaps have some intertwined human and dwarves here. That means perhaps cooperation between those two races, which is very good. About 50 years to go. I perhaps should not have set the... oh, there we go. We've jumped to a new area. The Goblin Forest Retreat of Efiv Athalul. The Jungle of Embracing. So I think that's talking about this location right here. I believe these are goblins. And perhaps these are human outposts near the goblins? I'm not sure. Looks like we actually have a lot down here. I believe that's what that is. Once we actually get into the section where we pick our embark location, these icons will be explained more. I'm not sure what they are off the top of my head, but they do show up specifically when you are when you're looking at embark sites. Now these islands, I could embark on an island. However, I believe I'll still get migrants from dwarves, but I don't believe I'll get human visitors or elven visitors or siege invaders if they can't reach me by land. I believe they will not go over ocean to invade. I could be wrong about that. It is possible, but I believe that's the case. So I probably will not embark on an island because that would perhaps be a little bit too easy. We have some more mountains up here. The further north we get, the colder it's going to be. Just like our planet, it is warmer in the middle, sparser trees, and then in tundra areas, there's also less trees, but it gets very, very cold. Things freeze over. I'm probably going to try to find a very moderate, temperate area to live, so that it stays nice and warm. There we go. So we've generated our history, and we have our world. So here we go. Zuza Tossum, the domain of hurricanes, has been created. So this is my world. Now we're finally zoomed out. This is our entire world. I'm trying to find some of the places we were looking at earlier, but it looks like those were zoomed in pretty far. So we can use our arrow keys, as you can see in the bottom left. We can use our arrow keys to look around. Oh yeah, look at that. We can continue to scroll to the left. So there's actually a lot of the world we haven't seen. We're still zoomed in a decent amount. Also, if you look in the middle of the ocean on the left, you can see this X. This X is demonstrating where I'm looking, or where my cursor is at right now. So right now we are in the middle of the oceans of man. It's kind of a cool name. We scroll up. We will enter the continent of appearance. And the section, so this whole continent here is the murk of appearances, or the continent of appearances. And then this section here is the murk of saviors. If we continue up, we will enter another area. Now we're in the crest of hills. Continue further north. Whoops. The sable forests. Oh, look at this. So these are, I was mistaken earlier. These symbols here, these yellow symbols, are elven retreats. They're elven cities, not goblin cities. So here we have, on this tile here, the Elven Forest Retreat of Olathiaz. The Elven Forest Retreat of Quithin Avais. So we can take this mouse cursor, and we can't use our mouse. I'm clicking with my mouse, and we can't move it there. We have to use the arrow keys or the numpad 2, 8, 4, 6 keys. The Dwarven Tower of Alathfikod. So this is actually a tower. Now, as far as I knew, the dwarves didn't build towers, so that actually may be a newer feature. I thought they had to live in what were called mountain homes, but it seems like that's different. The Forest of Breath. The Mire of Cradles. So again, all these names have been randomly generated, and so if you play enough Dwarf Fortress, you generate enough worlds, you'll see some repeats. But here's Oceans of Man again. This is the Joyous Continent here. The Velvety Swamps, that's cool. Let's see what this red icon right here. Hopefully you're still following this cursor. That's kind of where I am. The Island of Opening. The Swamps of Blushing. Interesting. I'm not sure what that red symbol means. That could mean a volcano. That could mean something much more sinister. I'm not sure. When we get to the top here, we're still in the ocean, but it looks like this is all frozen. This is all frozen. So this is frozen ice. this symbol here, we're still in the oceans of man, as you can see at the top. Throwing a mouse over these sections, we're back on the joyous continent, the autonomous tundra. So it looks like the north and south poles are frozen over. The island of perishing, ooh, that's kind of a cool name. The frosty island of brothers. The Saturnine lands. Anyway, got another dwarven tower here. Oh, this is a human tower. The human tower of Anamatheth. Anamatheth. Obviously we have a road extending down this way. A hamlet. Human hamlets. So let's see. Where are dwarves? I bet these guys are the dwarves. There we go. The dwarven hillocks of Risenrigoth. The dwarven hillocks of Eralrenal? Names are not the easiest things to pronounce. Alright, so let's look for some goblins. Is this silk thing? There we go. Okay. The dark goblin pits of Noxlogthorzu. So it looks like there actually are some goblins very close. These are actually along the road. I wonder if could these be good goblins, perhaps? You can see there's a set, if you follow my mouse, there's a set of 3 right here, and they are right next to the the dark human fortress of Odzomo. So these are evil humans. Interesting. The dwarven fortress of Con Osberdan. The wall of fields. This is all the continent of appearance. This is still a connection connected to the other continent that we had. The Chartreuse Terrace Dune. So this is a desert right here, a blue desert. I wonder if it's blue sand or something. There's a lot to look at, as you can see. This is just the world generation, and there's a whole history that's gone into how the Elven Forest Retreat of Mac-Ethia Lil came about, or how the Elven Forest Retreat of Inaelil came about, whatever the name is. There's a huge history to all this, and you can explore that entire history. I'm not going to do that now, but eventually I want to go back in. I want to look at all this. The Dark Goblin Fortress of Ambosia. The Dark Goblin Pits of Mzungasama. Anyway, I'm done looking around the world for now. Let's look at the bottom. At the very bottom down here, we can accept, we can abort, we can export the image. Let's go ahead and accept the domain of hurricanes, and now it's saving the world. It's basically saving the domain of hurricanes to its own special file. And then there's a bunch of stuff that we can do within this world. Each fortress that we build will live somewhere in this world, and if it gets destroyed, we could go back and visit it later. Or we could abandon a fortress, or we could put it on hold so it still exists and start another fortress. Or we can build a fortress, set it on pause, start an adventurer mode, and that's where you take a single dwarf and you explore like you're in a roguelike, or like I guess a role-playing game. And then there's Legends mode, which, as I was saying a little while ago, lets you explore the vast amount of interactions between all these characters, how every civilization came to be, all the wars that were fought, all the dragons that were created. So now we have the option to start playing. We didn't have that before because we didn't have a world. And if we wanted to, we could design a world with advanced parameters, which I'm just going to look at, but I'm not going to do. And now this is where it gets pretty complicated. You can set on the upper right corner a large island, large region, medium island, medium region. You can add parameters. You can edit them. I see that scrolling kind of got in the way. Apologize for that. You can use you can add seeds, random seeds. In the upper left, you can add a specific seed. Random seed is Shift S. No, that seems to be adding just the letter S. Anyway, you can customize your worlds very specifically. So, like, if you wanted to do a challenge mode, let's say, and have, you and 2 other friends all generate the same world, you pick a fort and see how long you guys can keep it going or something. You could do that. Let me abort. Can I click on this? No. Oh, I see. I'm in the seed right now. That's what the problem was. I was inside the seed. So if I shift S now, yeah, it'll just set a random seed. Anyway, I'll back out of there. Are you sure we're gonna abort? Yes. Hit Y. Anyway, now we can start. We can also do an object testing arena. That's literally just where we can spawn in anything that we want and see how it will behave. So we could spawn in a dragon versus a bear and watch them fight. Or we could spawn in a horde of goblins versus one dwarf and see how many goblins that one dwarf could take on. And that's actually kind of fun to do, just because it lets you set up very specific circumstances. Like what happens if a dragon and an eagle are on the same team? How would they fare, right, against, you know, one bear and one leopard or something? And you could play all that out. We might check that out at a different time. For now, we're going to go up to start playing. And here's our world. Remember, Zuza Tossum. That's the divine hurricanes, the something of hurricanes, the domain of hurricanes. That's what it was. So we can start Dwarf Fortress, which is the main mode. That's what most people will play. Well, maybe not most people, but that's the default mode, where you start off with 7 dwarves. You send them off on an adventure trying to build a new home. There's adventure mode where you take a single adventurer. He could be human. Looks like I'm getting some mouse control here as well. He could be human. He could be a dwarf. He could be an elf. He could be a sword fighter. He could be a hunter. He could be a wrestler. Any number of things. And you take him out into a roguelike adventure where you get quests and you go kill enemies and you hire helpers. And then there's Legends mode, which will let you sift through, as I was saying, the vast history of the world that was created, the 250 worlds that I created when I created the Domain of Hurricanes. You can look at specific characters, specific battles, specific cities, and you can see all the events tied to all those. There's an awesome application that comes with a Lazy Noob Pack that lets you dive deep into all that, and it creates links between characters and lets you explore all that. And really, it's just all these emergent stories that have been created. But we won't look at that right now. Let's take a look. Let's dive in to Dwarf Fortress. Now that we've created our world, we are loading the world now back from the file that we generated it from. And now time is going to pass. If you look in the upper left corner, it's a bit hard to see, but we are increasing. We are in the month of Granite, and 2 weeks, I believe 2 weeks will go by between every single new fortress. Every time you create a new adventure, it's just to signify the passage of time. So it was the 1st of Granite, now it's the 14th of Granite. And here's where we pick an Embark location, or where we want to send our 7 dwarves. Now this looks complicated, I understand. We're going to go through all of it. Remember, as we were looking around the world, we had, it was the whole window before. So this far right kind of image box that I'm encircling with my mouse here is the entire world. Now it's been scrunched up left and right, and it's a bit wider than it looks here. But this is the entire world. You can see the South Pole with all the frozen water, the North Pole. Remember, when we were looking earlier, we started around here where my mouse is. We moved left, we went up to this continent, we went all the way over here. We were looking around. So this is the entire world. And here's where my cursor is, right here. If you move over to the left, you have the region. And this box is a zoomed in image of this section right here around this cursor in the world. So as you can see, the continent goes down, goes to the right, over, and then back up, and there's a little water inlet. Here you go. Here's that inlet right there. This is where this land goes down, comes back up if you're following my mouse. Then there's that inlet. You can see the frozen water here. Same thing, frozen water down here. Zoomed in even further on this one tile where this flashing, ignore where my cursor is. If you see this one tile right here, well, now I know where my cursor is. That's where this local region is. This is zoomed up on a per tile basis. And every single one of these tiles represents a certain size in the game. I forget what that size is exactly. And when you embark on a 3x3 section. So you can see where my mouse is now. There's a 3x3 tile. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's where I would embark. On the right, it shows us where this local section is, or what we're looking at. So any It's a bit backwards, but any information on the far right is going to be about this section on the far left. So we're looking at the sprayed tower. That's the name. Don't worry about the name too much right now. This is in a mountainous area. You can see the mountains right here where my cursor is. It's covered up by the X, but as the cursor moves away, you can see these little upward triangles. Those are mountains. The temperature is temperate, which means it will be warm, a little wet, but it probably will never freeze over here. And if you look at our world map, sure enough, that seems about right. It gets very cold down here at the bottom pole, very cold up here. There's some deserts here, perhaps towards the middle, but in this area, we're going to be nice and temperate. Trees, there are actually none where these mountains are. Now, there might be some trees up here, but we're only looking at the mountains right now. Any other vegetation, that means like bushes, berries, things like that, is thick, which is good. The surroundings is wilderness, which means you might come across, any kind of beasts, like any, bears and ducks and eagles and any kind of wild animals. There is a brook running through this section, right here, and it is the Schoenlachs Brook. That's the name of the brook. And then here we'll show it's a little cheaty, right? It's cheating a little bit, but the game wants you to know where you're going to embark. So there's sand here. There's shallow metal, which means that there's metal. You don't have to dig down extremely deep to find certain metal. There's also very deep metals, which is very good. So there's going to be shallow metal and deep metal. There's also a flux stone layer. So flux stone is used in combination with certain metals like steel, iron, etc. Well, iron, to create stronger, tougher material, steel, basically. So flux stone will let you create better, stronger, faster weapons, armor, etc. So a flux stone layer is extremely good. So at the very bottom, you can see we are in the domain of the hurricanes. That's our whole world. We are on the continent of Saffron. So this whole continent, if you can see my mouse, is the continent of Saffron. I'm circling it now. If you remember, this continent here was the continent of appearances. And then this will be a continent, this might be appearances as well. But this one might be its own. There's lots of islands up here, if we remember correctly. Now, if we wanted to, I'm going to use my arrow keys now. Just kind of move around and look in the region view. You'll see it here. That X is going to move each time I press a button. Now see, I'm mousing over, or I'm selecting an elven retreat right now. And if you look in the upper left at the local, see all this. This is all an elven city. Now what it looks like, I don't know. Here's the wall, or the boundary. They don't necessarily have a wall. But here's the city. And if I were to go north a little bit, here's a goblin city. So it looks like there's actually an elven city and a goblin city right next to each other. Interesting. So yes, we could just look through here. Let's pick this place. Sand, clay, very deep soil, shallow metal. We could do it that way. But there's also at the very bottom, if you look, you can see, follow my mouse, F, find desired location. So we can actually have the game search for a location that we want. So let's press F. And remember, you can always see the keys that I press in the bottom left corner. As I press them, I'll hit escape, hit F. And that's what bringing up this find desired location. So the dimension is how large of an area. We want to keep it on 3x3. The bigger an area that you have, and this is actually search location. This is not how big of an area you'll embark on. This is just determining how large of an area it will search. But you want to keep it the same size as your embark, which I'm always going to do 3x3. The larger it is, the more, the harder it is on your processor, on your machine, on your computer, basically, to keep up with everything that's happening within those tiles. Because remember, it has to keep track of temperature for everything in every tile, what every creature in every tile is doing, what every tile is made out of. And it's not keeping track of one layer, it's keeping track of hundreds, which I'll explain once we get in the game. So set my search dimensions, leave them at 3. Savagery, low, medium, high, or you don't care. And this is going to search for how aggressive the wildlife or the area is. There are some areas, I don't see any here, If they were purple, it would be easy to see. There might be this red section right here. Anyway, savagery is just how aggressive the wildlife is. As you saw when I first was talking about the section on the right, the environment was wilderness, which means you had bears and eagles and mallards and things like that. That's kind of low savagery. High savagery is things like skeletal elephants, or griffins, or extremely aggressive, sometimes evil things. So savagery, you don't want to be too high until you're better at the game. So we'll leave this on low. Evil is kind of the same thing. Savagery might be things like lions and tigers instead of ducks or pigeons, right? And evil, low evil might be, fish. Whereas a high evil could be, again, skeletal elephants or a necromancer or something living close by. So we'll set these both to low. Or this first game is going to be, we don't want to set ourselves up to be too dangerous. Because remember, I'm still trying to learn this game as I'm going to be talking and teaching about it. So elevation, low, medium, high. Elevation is determined by mountains, basically. I usually just always leave this NA, doesn't really matter. If they want to place me up in the mountains, if that's a perfect Embark location for what I'm searching for, then that's fine. Temperature, low, medium, high. Again, low would be cold, high would be hot. I usually leave this NA as well. You can kind of always guess what it's going to be by where you are in the world. Top and bottom edges can be cold and warmer as you get toward the middle. Rain, yes or no, or low, medium, high. Rain helps refill bogs and wash away blood and things like that, so we'll leave it on medium. Drainage, I'm actually not too sure what drainage does. Now's a great time. Let's go to the wiki. Drainage. Let's try looking up find desired site. I was thinking there might be a, say, Embark. Anything? No? Drainage. We'll look at that again. Oh, whoops. Searching in the wrong box. Drainage. Loam is one of the many loam area, poor drainage. Okay, so I'm not too sure what drainage means. If anybody knows what drainage means, please let me know. I'm not sure what it means in context of this, so I'll leave it on NA. Fluxstone layer, I do want that. Remember, that will let me use Fluxstone to create higher level or stronger, better materials for weapons and steel and things like that. Aquifer, if you remember in the last episode, in the Lazy Noob pack, let's open that up. I actually disabled aquifers completely. Where is that option? There, I turned aquifers off. So I think no matter what I search for, it will say it'll say there's no aquifers. But I'll actually turn it off just in case. I do want a river. You can often use a river for fresh fish, which is a food source. Let's do shadow metals. Yes. I'm not sure the difference between yes and multiple, actually. Let's do multiple because it sounds better. Let's do some soil. You can do little, some deep. You can do some. Soil is easier to dig in, but you can't find things like jewels. You can't find metals to craft metal things. You can't find a lot of interesting things in soil, but it clears very fast. So if you needed to build an area, if you needed to dig out an area very quickly, you could. Clay is very good for building pots to hold things in. I haven't used clay a ton, so I'll need to do some research on how clay works. But we set these parameters up, and we can press enter to perform a search, and you'll see on the world it will scan everything up north to south and then move to the east a little bit, north to south again. Anything green is a positive site. So far we don't have anything. We may not find anything here. So far, so you can see on the right side, Everything green, it's found. It's found compatible sites for, except for evil. So we may need to set evil to NA. Let's actually do that. I'm going to hit escape to stop the search. And then I'm going to set evil to NA. And let's run the search again. Alright, so it's already found 2 sites. However, they're very cold. Okay, we found some more sites. That's very good. And we'll just let this run through all the way. So from there, I can know for sure if I embark on one of these green locations, it will have exactly what I've asked for. Okay, lots of sites in the lower right there. Maybe that's where I'll end up embarking. Alright, so the searching is done. Now we can use the escape button to browse the results. And again, those options are at the bottom of the screen down here. I can do another search if I wanted to, change the parameters, or I can browse the results. So let's hit escape. I need to find my cursor, which is right here. As you can see where my mouse is on the world. And then when we zoom in to the region here, all these X's are also locations that I could go. Let's move over. Here's a suitable location right next to this dwarven city. Or I could go up and to the right. There's a location in the bottom right. These 9 tiles here. It's a bit closer, it's a bit too close, however, to other civilizations. Darn, it seems like the only viable spots are close to civilizations that exist already. So let's look elsewhere. Now if you hold, right now I'm moving 1 tile per button press. If I hold shift, I will move 10 per. So this will let me cross the world very quickly. Here's another site right on the water. So we could go here. Let's continue. I'm going to go up to another. Here we go. We could sit on this island. Right there. This is warm. Oh, there's no vegetation, however. No vegetation at all. Let's see. I kind of like this spot. Where did it go? Here we go. This spot. Now I'll be on the ocean, so I'll have access to the sea if I wanted to catch fish, like saltwater fish, and then I also have access to the brook. A brook, and you can see right here the ice just it must be cutting off letters to make it all fit, but that's okay. So now that I've found a site that I think I would like, it's not too close to anything. It's actually kind of close to this goblin fort here, but we're here. We can look at a few different things. At the very bottom, you can see we can change mode. So if we press tab, it will now show us who our neighbors are. We have dwarves nearby, goblins nearby, elves, and humans. What the neighbors screen will tell you is if you will get visitors or attackers from those civilizations. So other dwarves will come to visit, elves will come to visit, humans will come to visit, and goblins will come to snatch babies, steal artifacts or steal items, or actually outright attack us. So it's a pretty good suite. Let's see, if we move to an island, would we have the same option? Let's find an island. Alright, so now you can see I'm on an island. Remember to look in the region view here on this island, and you can see my neighbors are only dwarves. So dwarves will come to visit, but I'll never get sieged, I'll never trade with humans or with elves. So I don't really like that. Let's go back to this spot. Hit tab again, and this is where I get to pick my civilization that I'm from. So as you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. There's 8 different civilizations to pick from. The Vestibule of Hides, the Diamond Gem, the Sword of Palaces, the Glaze of Tools, the Stable Salve. Anyway, as I And by the way, to navigate up and down these, I'm using plus and minus on the number pad key. The equals and minus do not work. Well, it works. The minus works. I guess if I held shift, this would work to go up and down. So I could. But again, I highly recommend if you're using a laptop without number keys, switch in the Lazy Noob Pack. Switch to the laptop key bindings. For now, I'm using vanilla DF, so I can use plus and minus. It looks like I can click as well. I can. The DF hack adding mouse support let me click. Anyway, as I move through these, if you look on the world view, you will see certain Dwarven civilizations light up. So this is the Glove of Appearances civilization. This is the Brave Paper. I don't see the Vestibule of Hides, so it looks like they actually have gone extinct, or at least don't own any cities. So that would be an interesting start. I could be the Vestibule of Hides and try to reform that civilization as it seems to have been wiped out or nearly wiped out. The Dwarven Gem is down here. So is the Sword of Palaces down here. The Glaze of Tools here, and etc. I think I will actually play the Vestibule of Hides. I like the idea of, instead of perhaps being sent off from my homeworld, I'm actually refugees from a fallen civilization, and I'm trying to rebuild the Vestibule of Hides. So let's go with that. Let's hit tab again. And as you can see, relative elevation actually changed the map on the far left to show us elevations. So if we look at this graph, low is blue, and the lighter it gets, the higher it is. So here are some mountains. If you follow my cursor in the local view, here are some mountains kind of going down elevations. Here's like maybe another set of mountains, but not quite as high. Then we get down to almost sea level, and then we get here to sea level. The red is where I'm going to be, right here. So we have an extremely flat location to build on, which is kind of cool. We have the sea that we know we're going to overlap a little bit, so that's cool. I'm kind of happy about that. If I wanted to, I could build into the side of the mountain, but building straight down into the ground is also okay. And here's another, this is basically the same view. I'm seeing the same thing, but this is showing basically how steep of a drop there is. So flat, remember these, it's hard to see, but they're a bit lighter than all the others. But where my cursor is, where my mouse is, this is where I'm going to embark. So here is completely flat, and then it drops into the water. So there may be actually a cliff face looking down into the water, so I may actually not have a shore that I can walk down to. It may actually be a sheer drop. I really hope so, because then I could capture some goblins and throw them off the cliff into the water. That'd be kind of cool. And then we have, it kind of slopes down into this corner here to where the actual water is. So that's kind of cool. That kind of gives me a better picture of where we are. And then we hit tab again, and we're back to the default view. So actually it looks like only this section is water, so there's going to be a good amount of land, and then the brook will be in the corner. So let's take a look. Temperate location. We actually don't have trees in this biome right here that we're looking at, so this might actually be sand. And if you continue to look down at the bottom, you have biomes. There's 3 different biomes here, and how many there are will change depending on what location you're at. So if I go to the left once, see there's only 2 biomes, F1 and F2. Let's go back to our spot. There'll be 3. If I press F1, nothing happens, but you can see, nothing changes on the right, as you can see, but on the left, it shows these X's show the biome we're talking about. If we hit F2, we're not talking about this biome, and this is actually the jungle of ruling. So we have the oceans of man, which if you remember, that's this entire ocean here in the region view, or here, this whole giant thing in the world view. We have the oceans of man, which we knew. It's going to include the sand, it looks like, on the beach. We have the jungle of ruling, so 1, 2, these 2 tiles are going to be in the jungle of ruling. We have heavy forested, which is good. We're going to have plenty of trees to harvest from these 2 tiles. The surroundings are calm. Let's take a look at our first biome. Surroundings are also calm. Let's take a look at our third biome now. So that's here, this one. Looks like, yeah, this is the oceans of man still, but we don't have deep metals in this one tile. So we have plenty of deep metals here, but none right here. Cool. Well, that seems good. I've learned a lot about where I'm going to embark, so you can use all these tools to kind of figure out. I've kind of painted a mental picture now of what the world is going to look like once I actually jump into the game. So we can press E to embark. And look, you've selected an area with salt water. It might be very difficult to survive here. The reason it's saying this is because dwarves can't drink salt water, right? Makes sense. But the brook that I'm going to be drinking from, or collecting water from, if you follow my mouse on the left, right here, the ice just helmed verp, whatever the name of that is, that should be fresh water, because it's coming in from the mountains. So it's probably a freshwater stream emptying out into salt water. So that's fine. I should have drinking water if I need it. So we can embark. We should be okay. Press enter to embark. Now, this is how we can determine what items we take with us, what each character, or what each dwarf, what their skills are going to be. Or you can pick from these previously created and these come with Lazy New Pack. These are kind of pre-packaged starting conditions. The DF Vid Tuts 2015, these are from Captain Duck. It's an easy start made for new players. I might pick this, but explain what preparing for the journey carefully means. But go ahead and pick this because this is going to get me a little bit of everything that I need. Let's go ahead and prepare for the journey carefully. Press enter. Can I back out from here? Oh, I can't. Interesting. Okay. We're just going to have to prepare for the journey ourselves. So what do we have? Well, we have a list of dwarves here. These are our 7 dwarves. It's not sleepy, happy, grumpy, or any of those, Doc. They're not there. Instead, we have Tekud Sibrikalsum, small Saul, and Ingris Kovstadeten, and Rakust Zephont et Tescom. And they all start out as peasants. From here, we can give them jobs to do once we arrive. At the bottom, you can see a list of everything you can do. And at the very bottom right, you have a number of points. These are available to distribute along each one of these specific specializations, and here at the items as well. We'll talk about those in a second. Each dwarf has 10 points that they can allocate, and that's it. So you can't make one super dwarf with like 320 points worth. So I can go up and down here with the arrow keys, and if I hit if I hit enter, no, not tab. How do I get over to the other side? Interesting that this is not working. Normally this works. I may have to just use the mouse. I think that's actually part of the problem. I think the mouse has taken over. That's actually unfortunate because I wanted to do this with the keyboard. Anyway, let's do it with the mouse. If you are playing with the Lazy Noob Pack, which you should be, remember you can go to DF Hack before you launch the game and turn on mouse controls here. So if you do that, you can follow along with how I'm doing this. So we want to pick our first dwarf, and we want him to be a miner. So we'll mouse over miner, hit the plus button, yes. And now he's become a novice miner, plus again an adequate miner, plus again a competent miner. Again skilled, again proficient. So as you can see, that skill has gone from 5, if you look here, we go up 5 times, to 10, and he's proficient. And now his available points have gone down to 5. And if you look, we've actually used a lot more than 5 points from our list here, but that's okay. Now once I'm on this side, can I control with this? I can't. Well, that's a shame. DF hack has kind of taken over using the mouse, but that's okay. We'll roll with it. So I actually want 2 miners. So Tekhud Sibricalsum Kimsal is a proficient miner, and if we select Ingress, we want to make him or her a miner as well. And again, this looks like a huge... Oops, I used the mouse wheel. Apologies. That will let you zoom in and out. There we go. So how do I see other? Because there's a lot more options than this. Interesting. Well, that kind of messes me up. So I will actually be right back. I think I'm going to turn off the mouse controls for now, because this is messing up my instructions a little bit, because I cannot figure out how to go through this list here. No, I don't want to embark. Alright, I'll be right back after I solve this little issue. Hey guys, I didn't realize that I spent an hour on generation and where to embark from, or world generation and where to embark. So I'm actually going to cut the episode here and do embark profile stuff next time, so that you're not watching an hour and a half long video. I apologize for this being so long. It just takes a while. There's a lot to explain, but I'm glad that we went over it all. And if you sat all the way through it, thank you very much. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.